Behind the scenes of every church is drama. At some level, we all deal with it. Sometimes it evolves beyond that into a full-on rivalry.
And the damage that this can inflict cannot be overstated.
This is the secret world of church rivalries. Well, hey there, and welcome to the Pro Church Tools Show. We're here to help you and your church navigate the biggest communication shift in 500 years. I'm Brady Shearer, your host. I'm joined as always by my co-host. We call him A&W Alex. It's Alexander Mills.
Hello, hello.
And today, it's everyone's favorite show, Bro Church Tools. We are opening the mailbag, answering your questions. Without any further delay, A&W Alex, take us away.
Yes.
With the first question.
Getting A&W for dinner tonight, actually. Hey, Brady, hope you're well. A few months ago, you and me were messaging because I started to get some heat from other Christians for posting more preaching content. I wanted to hear your thoughts and if I was out of line. You encouraged me to keep going with it. Our latest video just hit 3 million views. You heard that right, folks. 3 million views in 4 days. And lots of people have been encouraged by it. A simple biblical truth getting spread far and wide. Praise God. Thank you for your encouragement, man. Any tips on how to leverage this engagement?
We're going to get to how to leverage this engagement in the second question because we had a similar question from a church in a similar place. But I wanted everyone to take a listen and take a watch with this reel. The audio is really what matters the most here. So if you're watching or if you're listening, you're still going to get the gist of it. So let's take a listen together.
Hey Siri, how many times does the Bible say, do not fear?
Fear or similar expressions appear many times in the Bible, depending on the translation being used. However, it is commonly noted that the Bible contains around 365 verses that include the command, do not fear, or a similar encouragement.
And Siri, how many days are there in the year?
There are 365 days in the common year.
So you're telling me that the Bible says do not fear 365 times, and there are 365 days in the year?
Yes, the Bible says do not fear 365 times, and there are 365 days in the common year.
Here's what I want to let you know this morning. As there are 365 days in the year, there are 365 reasons not to fear. When the doctor's report comes your way, do not fear. When your work contract is finishing up, do not fear. When your relationship hits a rocky period, do not fear. When your faith seems to be weak, do not fear. If you start worrying about your children, do not fear. If your business is struggling, do not fear. When your mental health starts to take a turn, do not fear. No matter what situations come your way, as there are 365 days in the year, there are 365 reasons not to fear. Can we praise God for a second? Isn't He amazing?
Siri, preaching.
Wow.
That reel on Instagram, 156,000 likes.
You just activated my Siri.
That's why she's off on my... No. I don't want them listening in.
She's listening to the podcast.
They want me Apple Vision Proing. They're going to have every one of my senses soon enough.
Yeah.
156,000 likes, 35,000 shares, 3.4 million views. Let's back up a bit. One of the first messages that I get from this pastor is in the beginning of 2022. And it read, "Hey Brady, not sure if you check your messages or if it's your team, but I just want to say thank you for the gift you are to the church. Your content has helped me lead teams and move forward in my thinking and strategy in the online space for years. I first came across your work probably back in 2017 and have watched almost every video since. Just want to say a big thank you from a local pastor in Australia. Big love." A year later, now beginning of 2023, another message. Quote, "I just got appointed lead pastor. I'm taking a lot of your advice and ethos and putting it into the future of how we do church. You've been instrumental. Thanks for all you do." 5 months after that message. "Hey man, I just had to do a mini rant on my stories about why I've started posting preaching clips online. Any thoughts for me? I feel like I need to justify myself time and time again as I've received comments and feedback from Christians misunderstanding what we're doing." Now, the fact that this pastor is from Australia is also important. Keep in mind, both Alex and I are Canadian. And in our two countries, along with a few others, there is a phenomenon that is known as tall poppy syndrome. You ever heard this?
No.
It has its own Wikipedia page,
Okay.
which reads, quote, "In Australia and New Zealand, along with Canada, tall poppy syndrome refers to successful people being criticized. This occurs when their peers believe they are too successful or are bragging about their success. Intense scrutiny and criticism of such a person is termed as cutting down the tall poppy.
There you go.
In Japan, a similar common expression is the nail that sticks up gets hammered down. In the Netherlands, this expression is don't put your head above ground level. I titled this episode The Secret World of Church Rivalries because most of the time, the way that we get this feedback is discreet in church. You get a DM from a person that says, this is really not what we're about, this isn't the way. You get the classic anonymous note left in the offering basket.
I was just talking to a Catholic priest this morning who was talking about anonymous complaints that they receive.
Handed in at the back to a church elder as, hey, make sure the pastor gets this one.
You know what's a classic that I get? A text message after the service.
Great point.
Like 3 minutes after the service.
At least someone's putting their name on it that way. Conversation in the lobby. Hey, pastor, can I just talk to you for a sec? Hey, you did this thing, and I think you might have the right heart, but I just want you to know how it's being perceived out here. And, it's not just churches. Like, this is a phenomenon that exists beyond the church world where, like, we don't want people to see us trying. I keep seeing TikToks like this. They're like, you're not afraid of, like, doing the work. You're afraid of people seeing you try. Because it's embarrassing to see people try and, like, achieve something that they have not yet achieved. Because the posture that so many critics will lobby at you from the outside is like, who do they think they are?
Yeah.
Like, why do they think they're trying this? And what stands out to me in this interaction with this pastor is at one point, he was not the lead pastor. And, he's a younger guy. And then he gets appointed lead pastor. And what do we talk about on this show so often? Like, we need young people with fresh vision that are going to be trying things, that understand the communication shift that we're going through, the biggest one in 500 years, and they're able to take the gospel and share it in places where it's not typically getting shared as much as other messages are outside the Christian faith. This pastor then does that. And what happens?
Yeah.
They get the criticism. Maybe within the church, maybe outside the church, right? Sometimes it happens in our own church from people that are like, this is not the way we do things, stop it. And I cannot imagine how difficult that must be, not just to come in as a new lead pastor, but also to be the young lead pastor who's doing things like, that's not how we do it here, pastor. But then also from, like, other churches, right? We all know what it's like, other churches, gossiping behind your back, saying things. We all, we've all been in that place. We've all done it. We've all had it done to us one time or another in some respect. They're trying that thing. That'll never work here. That's not how we do ministry in this area. Why would they think that that's okay? Right? And it all comes from a place of insecurity, but there are these, like, rivalries and these critical spirits that develop. And let's look now backwards at what could have happened. This pastor becomes the lead pastor. And they hear the criticism and they decide, you know what? It's not worth it. Like, it's like, I know what it's like to be criticized online. You can get 99 great comments, you get one bad one, and that one bad one is all that you can think about. And is it worth it? Like, is it worth it for my own mental health? Most of the time, people say no.
Yeah.
If that pastor had done that, and he surely was tempted to do so, this specific reel never goes out. I don't think people understand how many people 3.5 million is.
It's so many people.
And this is the most wholesome preaching clip I have seen in a long time. Often, the ones that go off are the ones that are pushing the limit just a little bit.
Right.
Not necessarily in a bad way, but, like, in a way that's like, hey, there's this theological belief that most Christians hold that maybe outside the church people find a little bit offensive or a little bit like, oh, I don't know if that makes me feel great. The Christian faith does that all the time. This one is about as wholesome as it gets. And people are like, who do you think you are, trying to build your brand? You're not going to be the next insert pastor name here. And they misunderstand his intentions. And it grieves me so much to think of how many people probably quit because they're like, it's not worth it.
So what do you think, like, for a young pastor like this, or a young pastor who's listening who maybe wants to try something like this, try something new at their church, whether it's on their personal page or from the church page, that is beyond the scope of what has been done? This pastor said in one of your DMs, like, I had to go on a mini rant. Like, I had to post my Instagram and explain to people why I'm doing this.
Not explain, defend.
Right. So does it warrant, when pastors want to try something new like this in an effort not to build a brand, but to share the gospel, does it warrant, like, a heads up to the church community? Like, hey, I know you're conditioned to, like, seeing this type of content from our Instagram page, but, like, now we're going to try this for these reasons. We talk about this on the show all the time. When you align a decision like this, a strategy like this with the mission and vision of your church, it's pretty hard to argue with. And so do you think it warrants, like, a little heads up to the community? Like, hey, this is our mission and vision, and we're going to start posting this content. This is why it's congruent, so that they're not kind of, taken aback when they see it online?
Yeah, I think that can certainly be useful. I responded to him, and he was like, people are like mad that he's like, who do you think you are? I'm like, yeah, like, would someone like walk into a church and go to the pastor at the pulpit and say like, who do you think you are preaching from this pulpit?
Right.
It's like, no, like that's what church is for. So a lot of the times there are people that are receptive to just casting vision and presenting almost analogous situations. It's like, hey, in person we do this, online we do this. Now you might perceive online as different, but we're actually taking the same vision, the same value, and we're expressing it in an analogous way online. And there will be some people that are receptive to that. But really, at the heart of my frustration with this comment is like the people that want to police other people's behavior. And I can resonate, and perhaps why I'm a little bit more sensitive to this, triggered, is there was a time where I published a blog online, and the only person that read it was my mom. And there were people that were just like, who do you think you are to like start a blog and tell people what to do? Why do you think that you could like then create a product to sell? Like, why would a church like even give you money? Yeah. And it's so funny because like we all start as nobodies, in the sense that like, why would somebody listen to you? That's how it starts for everybody. You know what? Not to draw the line between any of us and Jesus, but like, what was the thing that they said about Jesus? From Nazareth? Yeah. There's nothing good that comes out of there. I remember being at a retreat when I was like 21. So I was interning in Bible college at the youth group. So I'm like studying to become a pastor, you know, vocationally. And there was like this prophetic moment. And this person was like, hey, Brady, I know you, I didn't know this person, but I don't know if prophecy's real. I don't know if this one was real. He's like, you know, you're from some nobody town in Canada. And this was like
that part is true.
This was an American preacher who like was from a big church. He's like, nobody has ever come from that town. It's like, that has nothing to do with what you are going to do. He's like, and they're going to say like, really, from there? He did that? And like, that is the story of, you know, so many people in the Bible as well, right? Like, you know, humble beginnings, and then they do great things for the Lord. And then we are the Christians on the sideline being like, nope, I don't care. Nope, hate it. Sucks to be you. Yeah. Why would you think you can do that? You're a joke. It really just frustrates me, man.
Well, and you know what's crazy about this one is like, it's not like he was creating content specifically to go viral on the internet. It's like, it was just a sermon clip.
He already was going to do it.
Like, he had already preached it in his church, and it was accepted there. It's like, wow, I'm encouraged 365 times. Like, wow. And all he did was post it to the internet. Like, I guess I just can't identify with the outrage about that. And maybe that gets to the point here is like, oh, well, maybe it's not exactly about the content itself, because it's hard to argue with the content, but more about this psychological thing that you were talking about, which is, you know, trimming down the tallest poppy.
Let's get to the second question, because that gets to answering his actual question.
Okay, so next question in the same context. Hey, Brady, we're at church in Montreal, Canada, and 3 weeks ago we posted a very simple reel. Took maybe 5 minutes to make. And then that thing exploded a few days ago. Take note of that. Posted 3 weeks ago, exploded a couple days ago. Hitting over 1 million views and getting us to over double our followers in 3 days. So from 3,600 followers to 7,600 followers. You have a lot more knowledge about the platform than I do, so I was wondering if you have any type of insight about this. Maybe an element that you've observed that we can repeat again in the near future. Now that we've gone viral, what do we do now?
So this reel, which we can show for those that are watching, and I'm going to read. It's a B-roll clip with text on top. Here's what the text reads. Moses fasted for 40 days and received 10 commandments. Esther fasted to save her people and her family. Hannah fasted to have a son, and Samuel was born. Daniel fasted to have his prayer answered. Jesus fasted 40 days before beginning his ministry. What made you think fasting wasn't important? Oh, nice. A little bit of little punchline there at the end.
Yeah.
So this has, in terms of metrics, 81,000 likes. Is it art? I wrote that down. Okay, this is hilarious. I wrote the notes for this 4 hours ago. I wrote, and I always round down to be conservative. 81,000 likes. As of this second, it's 83.1 thousand likes.
So another 2,000, not just another 2,000 people have watched it.
No.
So many people have watched it that 2,000 of those people have liked it.
In 4 hours.
Yes.
That's 500 likes an hour.
Right. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's viral.
18,000 shares, 19,000 now, 1.3 million views. So the question, we've gone viral. What do we do now?
Same thing with that first clip, 3 million views. What can we do?
Yeah, let's provide context for how frequently this happens. We call these viral for me posts. To be clear, these are not viral for me posts so much as they are viral for anyone posts.
Yeah.
Viral for me post is any piece of content you publish that reaches 10x the audience of a typical post of yours. You publish consistently, taking no weeks off, which is what we always recommend. 3 to 5% of the posts that you publish, if you're doing good stuff, will be viral for me content. And that is largely in part due to the discovery algorithms. You might think to yourself, that's never happened for me. Right, in the first 15 years of social, that would never happen.
Right.
You were only reaching your existing audience. Nowadays, for this church in Montreal, the other church in Australia, you publish something that's great, it's gonna reach thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, 500 likes an hour apparently. That's real viral.
Yeah.
So when you know that, you have to basically take approaches to the content that you make and assume that it could be this post.
Right.
Because you never know which one it's going to be. We did a series at the end of the year on my Instagram, at Brady Shearer. And the series was like the most beautiful modern church buildings in the world. And I made 4 of the videos. And the reason I made 4 was because I was confident that the idea was the type of idea and framing that could become a viral for me post. And it was content that was probably eligible to reach a different audience than we typically reach. It wasn't like specifically church social media or church comms.
Architectural Instagram or whatever.
And the broad Christian like faith one as well, not just like, oh, I work at a church.
And for those listening, here's a hot tip. That's an easy piece of content to make into more than one piece of content, right? Like you could have just as well made, these are some of the most beautiful modern churches in the world and done all of those examples in one video. But instead you just chopped it up. Same content, no more work, just chopped it up into 4 videos to give yourself another opportunity for that one to be the one to go off.
Yeah, and that can be sometimes tricky because you don't want to be the person that's like for part 2 and you're like,
Exactly.
You could have put this all in one.
Yeah.
It's all in one YouTube video, but because each building is very unique, it doesn't really make sense to put them all together in one video. Whereas like if you were like, I did a reel today, which was the best church cameras under $2,000. It wouldn't, I don't think I'd love the idea of being at the end like for part 2 and then do the exact same thing again. That's personal preference, to each their own. These are the metrics on those 4 videos. The first one, 73,000 views. Second one, 63,000 views. The third one, 287,000 views. The fourth one, 31,000 views.
There you go.
So of the 4, one of them popped, and that brought in many, many new followers. I had to approach every single one of those posts the same as if it was going to be that one.
Right.
And so with the content we make for churches, we always include end screens with invitations for people to connect to the church. We want to share the good news. We also want to invite people. And this doesn't help either of those 2 churches because they're like, well, I already published it.
Sure,
but we all have to approach it with this same idea. If this does go viral for me, how am I going to invite people to stay connected beyond just this post?
Yeah.
So our end screens will typically say either like and follow for more or listen to the full message online if we're working with a sermon clip like the example from the Aussie church. Here are some other things that you need to do to preemptively prepare for something like this happening. Make sure the highlights and the bio of your pages are fully fleshed out and are giving opportunities to invite people.
And that's good news for the Canadian church because we just proved it. Viral posts, often they're not a flash in the pan. They remain viral for days, sometimes weeks. This post still going viral. And so they still have time, if their bio or their highlights need some work, to go back and make some quick edits so that, for the next hour, the next 500 people who are going to like that video or the next 1,000 people that are going to share it have better means to take a next step in their faith with Jesus because they're inevitably seeing this content a lot of those folks are going to land on that profile.
Yes.
Checking it out. Am I going to follow this profile? And so having a next step clear and visible in the bio, going to their website, which should be the place for all their next steps. You can make that change right now and still capitalize on this viral moment.
Yeah, so what should you have in your highlights? Think about the biggest on-ramps and invitations that your church makes. That's what should be there. So for many churches, a highlight for plan a visit. Come and visit us in person. This church was publishing this in January, and that's why it was about fasting. 21 days of prayer and fasting. Where like maybe that is a highlight because that's like the big push for that month.
Yeah.
There can be ones that are permanent. There can be ones that are seasonal. You could have one, listen to full messages, right? You could have one for getting involved. You could have one for like, support us, give, right? And then the bio should be like, hey, we're a church in Montreal. This is what we care about.
Yeah.
Get involved, link below. You might be thinking, well, who cares? Like 500 likes an hour, millions of views. Like, what are the chances those people are local to Montreal?
Pretty high.
Pretty high,
Yeah.
The way discovery algorithms work is that you are disproportionately more likely to see content close to you, even if it's not necessarily of interest to you. When those two things intersect, you are very likely to see that content. So when I get on a call with the church and they're like, yeah, like how is this going to help us? I'm like, look, I am a follower of Jesus. Your content that we prepare for you, sermons, will be relevant to you. Me. It'll be in my like zone of interest. And yet, someone who is local to your church is more likely to see it even if they are not followers of Jesus because of their geography. So that's what makes this amazing. Yeah. So you want to have plan a visit there. You want to have like get involved with prayer event. You want to have like here's what we're doing in our local community. And that if you want to see how I like to design Instagram highlights, I'd recommend you go to my profile. It's really easy to just kind of have like a solid color background with like a word or two. Highlights famously have a very short character limit, so it can be challenging to get what you want in the actual title of the highlight. So you want to make use of the little circle that the highlights also give you.
I haven't seen yours in a while.
Oh yeah, I updated them recently because I was I should make some improvements here.
Yeah, that looks awesome. And now, and this is not new, but now any Instagram account can use the link feature. You don't have to have a minimum requirement of followers anymore. So the highlights have become so much more useful across all Instagram accounts now because a church that has 5 followers can use a highlight, just like you are in your first highlight here, to have a link to invite folks to take their next step with Jesus or with your church.
And then the final 2 points of encouragement and recommendations for these 2 churches on how to like leverage all of this. One is to build off the momentum. There will be people that follow you from this. Great, you've got new people. They are highly engaged. The way that the algorithms work on Instagram is like if you follow a new account, you are guaranteed to see like the next few posts, the next one for certain. So what are you going to be creating as you have momentum? Just because you didn't like have the end screen and the invitation and all that ready to go on this post doesn't mean you haven't generated a ton of momentum that you can build off of. And then the second thing is repeat the best. We have this axiom for social media: repeat the best, forget the rest, continue to test. You have stumbled upon a formula, whether you're the Church from Montreal or the Aussie church, like this works for you. So now, how can you create a similar on top of B-roll text list style post? And if you're looking for templates on this, I did a reel on this a few weeks back where it's like steal this template and I like give you the template with stock footage to download, very similar to this because it's working for many different churches. Repeat this style. So build off the momentum. Okay, what are we going to do? We have a viral post. We've got a ton of attention. What are the next few things that we're going to do? I probably wouldn't push heavy into promotion. Like, now we're going to get all... I would like ease into that. But I would definitely do a similar type post because people have proven they voted with their attention. We like this from you.
Yeah.
Repeat the best.
As you were saying that, building off the momentum and talking about, because that's been, I'm sure, all of our experiences, folks who are listening to the show, when you make a new follow, when you follow a new account on Instagram, almost without fail, next time you go to your feed, the first post that's there is from that account. Like you just get hit with posts from that account pretty frequently. And so that's kind of actually an interesting idea that when you do have a viral for me moment, when you have a post that's going off, it may even be worth, and this is actually not specific to churches, but unique to churches, because we're inviting folks who follow us or see our content into a life of following Jesus. There may be a strategic element there to consider what post you're going to post next, like immediately next after that viral moment. Knowing that a lot of folks are coming to your page, maybe folks hearing the story of Jesus for the first time. So what is that next post going to be? Knowing that a lot of people are going to see it likely who have come to your account from that post. So whether it's a reintroduction to the gospel, whether it's a follow-up to that type of content from the post that went viral. Like if it was a fasting post, maybe it's another post about fasting, inviting folks to a next step at your church or online that has to do with fasting. Because if they came from that post, that means they at least have some interest in fasting as a topic. And so really interesting for churches when you do have that moment, really thinking about, oh, what are our next post or next 2 posts, knowing that a lot of folks are going to see them. What are they going to be about?
Yeah, and you might also want to do one of the stories or posts like, hey, a lot of new people here.
Yep.
Let us reintroduce ourselves.
Yep, that's a classic.
That's a great one.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 great videos we just saw. The first one, the Siri one, with an incredible hook. When he said, "Hey Siri," I mean, both of our phones just woke up.
Your phone.
Yeah. And yeah, yours is turned off. But that got my attention right away when I heard that. And so the next question is, how do you come up with successful hooks for short form videos?
You have to hope that an automated AI can generate as many Bible verses as days in the year. Like you have to find these coincidences. Otherwise. So we have the 3 C's.
Yeah.
Care, common, curiosity. Formerly called it cliffhanger. I think curiosity is a bit more inclusive for what we're trying to do here. Care, common, curiosity. The way that we approach this exercise is we have these 3 things in mind. You want to give your hook a score out of 5 for each of those 3 objectives. Care, common, curiosity. Add up the 3 scores out of 5. If they don't together reach more than 10 out of a total 15 possible points, back to the drawing board. So let's talk about each of these objectives. Care. For a post to hit that intersection that we call faith and culture, you have to know that the average person that comes across this will care about the content. And, now that I say that, the fasting one almost breaks that rule.
Yeah, because it would rank pretty low on that probably.
Yeah.
And the first one would rank like maybe 5 out of 5.
Yeah. That's interesting. Now I will say that the way that they frame the reel is like they kind of lead you to fasting at the end.
Right.
But at the beginning, it's like, here's a thing a person was basically praying for that they thought was impossible, and here was how their impossible prayer was answered. And so that's why it is care, because impossible prayer was answered. How? By this. So they're kind of starting you where you are. Is there an impossible need in your life? Are you looking at a mountain and you're just like, I don't know how I'm going to scale this? Well, God can answer that prayer. Here's how in the scriptures we see that prayer being answered. So care. You cannot start at a place where a person is like, I have no interest in this whatsoever. And this might be obvious, but what I want to emphasize is that churches often think value, like, no, this is a valuable teaching. This is something that everyone needs to hear. That doesn't matter if they're not first interested in it. So the key is that you need to meet them where they are and then lead them to where you believe they need to be led.
Especially if you're trying to reach unchurched people.
100%.
Because surely the message that if you're the pastor, the message that you preached, or if you're the social media manager, the message you're trying to share, of course you care about it. You're a thoroughly churched person. You think this is the greatest story ever told. But the opportunity for us on the internet, thanks to this greatest communication shift in the last 500 years, is we have an opportunity to reach unchurched folks, maybe folks who have never heard the story before, surely never cared about the story before, in an unprecedented way. And so, yes, of course you care about it, but that doesn't mean that the folks you're trying to reach care about it as much.
So you might say, like, okay, Brady, but the wisdom of Scripture, they need to hear it. Okay, I hear you. Let's imagine we're coming at this from parenting content. So there's a reel that I often use as an example with the hook, the number 1 job of being a parent. And the content of that reel is about how, like, raising your family in church is, like, a really valuable thing. If you start the reel with, like, here's why you need to bring your kids to church, no one outside of the Christian faith has any interest in that.
Right.
If you start it with the number 1 job of being a parent, that's the intersection of faith and culture.
Yeah.
It's just as accessible to someone with a faith background as it is to someone who has no faith background. And that is key. It's elemental to a post doing well because it has to be able to reach a broad audience. The way that virtually every algorithm works is you publish something and it's like, okay, let's show this to like 20 people and see what they think.
Yeah.
So those 20 people all hopefully respond well, and that's how a post ends up as viral as these because, hey, we keep showing this to people and people keep liking it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. that means it needs to be universal in respect to, do people care about this subject matter? At the end, you can get to the point, which is like, you should probably bring your kids to church.
Yeah.
But don't start there. Same
Exactly.
content, different presentation.
Yeah.
That's the first C. The second C, common. Is this something that people care about? Sure. But also, it needs to be something that is common across culture, right? So like, it can't just be something that a niche group of people care about. It has to be universally cared about, common. And then curiosity. How does it get framed? The number one job of being a parent. I gots to know.
Yeah.
The 3 words you never want to say to your kids. Hey Siri, how many times does the Bible say do not be afraid?
I need to know.
I gots to know.
Yeah.
And then you lead people to where they want to be.
Okay, that's enough. We got to stop saying.
Pardon me, S-I-R-I. We keep waking her up. Another really easy exercise is to look at other successful hooks and emulate them.
Yeah.
You know, when you're starting in really any field, anything creative, you emulate people that you admire, right? So first video that I ever made for a church, for our church, I was the media director at, I like lifted the idea entirely from City Church. They had this vision video, and this is back like 2010. And the vision video used this effect where you could see a time lapse, but they used a tilt shift effect, which made it look like miniatures.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's cool. I'll recreate that exact effect. And it was unique to us because I was in a different city.
Yeah.
And so, but I was inspired by that, and I was so new. I was like, I'm just going to emulate something that they did and that effect. That's what happens in photography. Like, oh, I really love like the vintage treatment, like with the vintage film stocks. Okay, so here's what this creator does. And you emulate what they do, and in the process of emulation, you make one little discovery that's different from what they did. And then when you repeat that over and over and over again, you've eventually developed your own voice, your own style, your own creative melding of all the different people that you admire and the inspirations that you have. But at the beginning, it's totally okay to emulate a proven, successful formula. So those are 2 exercises that you can use.
Great. Okay, reaching into the personal mailbag here. What are 3 films that have impacted you the most?
Okay, how about the films that affected me the most from 2023? We'll make this
because you've seen a
recent.
lot of films.
Sure. I mean, not as many as some people, some of those cinephiles out there.
Yeah, but I realized like when I started working here, I realized that like you and Mitchell, Jonas, Brandon, like even Ryland, like Kyle too, like you guys watch. That was something that was notable to me. It's like, oh, these guys watch a lot of movies.
Oh,
Yeah.
dark.
No, it's cool.
Oh, okay.
No, it's great. You guys are like having bro time at the movie theater. I love that. You'll like drive out to Ancaster to go see movies with your pals.
Yeah, it's true. We do that.
Yeah, it's cool.
Well, and it's Oscar season. It's Academy Award season. It's award season. So my 3
Notice
films.
you didn't have Barbie on here.
Hey, Barbie. Yeah, well, you know who else didn't have Barbie? Yikes. Look, there was a much bigger snub of a woman named Greta, and we'll get to her, than Gerwig. I stan Greta Gerwig,
Right.
by the way.
Yeah.
My daughter, 8-year-old, was watching the old Narnia movies this past week.
Love it.
And I tell her, did you know new Narnia movies are coming?
Yeah.
And I said, and you know what? A woman is making them. And she's
go.
like, Dad, this was real. This is like bad cliche writing.
Yeah.
Girls can make movies?
She said that?
Yeah, she said that. I was like, yes. She's like, so I could grow up and I could make like a Narnia movie.
It's 2024 and this kid doesn't know this yet.
I know.
We've got work to do.
There's only women in the house but me.
Yeah, the Academy has some work to do.
They really do. So, first movie that was really impactful for me this year, Past Lives. No spoilers coming for any of these movies. Past Lives tells the story of a Korean man and a Korean woman. And they meet because they live on like the same block growing up in South Korea. And then the woman moves and she immigrates with her family, first to Canada. She eventually settles in Manhattan. And they reconnect as adults. Mm-hmm. And, you know, she's in a situationship, a marriage at that point, and he is, you know, she's like really successful. He's just kind of like, yeah, you know, I'm working, but like, and the whole movie is about like, imagine a web, and at the center of the web is where you are right now in life. And think about all the different choices you could have made along the way. You know, like one of those mazes that you get as a kid when you go to a restaurant and you're like, I got to draw my way through the maze. Like that's the path that brought you to this point right now. And now imagine you're in that center of the web looking forward and you can take any path. It hasn't yet been discovered. It's like everything backwards, there was so many different ways you could have gone, but you chose this way. And going forward, there's unlimited potential. And the movie really investigates and interrogates like, what does it mean to think about all the different directions our life could have gone? And if there was another direction that was a good direction, does that invalidate life now? What does it mean for life now? And if you see this movie, there's a final shot. There's this final shot of the man, and he's in a car and he's driving. And you have to see the movie, but that shot, I was watching and I was like, wow, let's go. and it moved me in a great way. Now,
Any nominations for this film?
yes, Best Picture nom. Okay. All three of these films, embarrassingly, are Best Picture noms.
Okay.
Greta Lee, the lead, the woman, was not nominated for Best Actress. Now,
Who was nominated for Best Actress?
well, let me say, the rule is, like in all-star nominations for sports, where like, if you're gonna say this player got snubbed, you can't just say they should be on, you have to say who should be off.
Sure.
And the clear person that should be off Best Actress in the year 2024 is Carey Mulligan from Maestro. Now, Maestro is the biopic directed and acted by Bradley Cooper about Leonard Bernstein. It's fine. It's okay.
Okay.
Carey Mulligan, she's good. She's good. But she should be off and Greta Lee should be in. That is indisputable. The first movie. Everyone watch it. It's a great watch.
Yeah.
It's uplifting, mildly depressing. That's what you want in a good film.
Yes, of course.
If you want an only uplifting film, that's number 2 here. The Holdovers. This is an instant Christmas movie classic. It's set in like
Also nominated for Best Picture?
This one, I think it got a lot of noms. It is set in like the 70s at private school in New England, I believe. And Paul Giamatti, him and Cillian Murphy are going to be in a showdown. And I think Cillian will probably get it, and I'd be fine with that. But like, if Paul Giamatti upsets Cillian at the Academy Awards for Best Actor, wouldn't surprise me. So Paul Giamatti is this crusty old professor, and he just sticks to the rules at all times. And these kids at the private school are all like these rich, bratty kids. And they're all going to be, going to Ivy League, and their parents are all incredibly rich. And he's just like, they have so much, but they don't apply themselves because they're just used to excess. And, he's like an underpaid like professor. So the holdovers is a term that references the people that stay at the school over Christmas.
Okay.
So everyone's going to St. Bart's and to St. Kitts, and they're going to Turks, but then there are a couple that stay home. And the story is about like, he was the teacher that had to stay with those kids this year. And what plays out is just a charming and uplifting journey of those kids and him and a couple of the other folks that work at the school.
Sweet.
It's also just, you love when you get like transported to a different time. Like there's no phones because it's all like in the 70s. The main character who plays like the student, his name is Angus in the film. Like Angus, nobody's named Angus anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's a name.
Yeah.
We used to be a proper country. Okay. Third film, it's cliche, but
It's not cliche.
before it got nominated for 13 Academy Awards, which is only one off the record held by Titanic,
Yeah.
All About Eve, and La La Land. La La Land was a joke. I'm going to get my soapbox. Oppenheimer. I saw it twice in theaters. If you make a movie with boys in a room talking, I'm going to watch it and I'm going to like it. And a lot of people thought the third act, it's like, hey, like we did the whole thing in the second act. Why is this the third act is my favorite part of the movie.
The third act was everything to me.
That is not, I don't think that's a commonly held or popular opinion. Downey got a supporting actor nom. I mean, I feel like he's got to win. He's so good. The actor he's playing against, Han Solo from the Solo films, pardon me, I forget his name, outstanding. It's just like, you know what the movie is in a sense? It's a DJ Khaled album where he just Nolan is just like, I'm going to bring together the whole industry.
Infinity Stones, yeah.
And it's like, oh, like, wait.
It's like that, what's that Christmas movie called that has like, what's it called? It's on the tip of my tongue. Anyways, it has just like an embarrassing host of big name actors and actresses, but it's not a great movie. I forget what it's called.
Love Actually?
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. That's it. That's what he assembled here, but he pulled it off. It's just, it's phenomenal.
3 distinct acts. In fact, the first act when Oppie is over in Europe, very similar vibes to the Holdovers. Like, back in the old money kind of education. Like, it's outstanding. What can be said about it? Cillian Murphy, best actor. No, it feels like he's going to win that. And boys in rooms talking.
Well, it's when I read the question, this was actually the first film that came to mind to me, and it's why it's on my list. My other 2 films are not from this year, but Oppenheimer happens to be from this year. Went and saw this movie by myself, actually, because when you guys all went to see it, I just forget what was happening. Maybe we were having a child. I forget what the timing was, but I couldn't make it work. And then the movie was still in theaters and I wanted to see it so bad. And so I was just like, I said to Rebecca, I'm like, can I go see a movie tonight? Like by myself? She's like, by yourself? And she thought it was weird. I'd never seen a movie by myself, so it was a little weird. I truthfully don't go to the movies very often. I'll just rather wait till they come out and watch them at home or whatever. But I went to this film and sat in the big comfy chair and I knew going into it what the movie was about. I didn't know what to expect from Christopher Nolan. I didn't know, obviously didn't know the story as well as I do now after the film. But it's one of those pieces of art that I know it's important because obviously at some points you are entertained, but for the most part, I felt, some of the feelings I felt watching the movie was I felt ill. Just the weight of the story it's telling and the weight of the world, the state of the world that we live in now, knowing that that we're living in this world where it's just everyone's got nuclear weapons and we're kind of just waiting, hoping that nobody pulls the first trigger. It was so sobering. It was so heavy. And a piece of art is special, whether it's a film or a song or even a painting or whatever, that leaves you in the wake with such complex emotions. This matters.
Yeah.
And, if you think about, you've seen hundreds of films over your lifetime. I've seen dozens. And you think about over your life, what ones stand out. It's movies like this, where it's there's a visceral feeling to sitting under this story. And I just thought the movie was beautiful. Knowing that there was no special effects used and the scope for those of our listeners who haven't seen it, pulling off some of these visual things with no visual effects,
no CGI
or CGI.
Visual effects definitely used,
but that's quite a feat.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't be surprised. We have our office has an annual Oscars party.
Yep,
and,
getting close.
And we fill out our ballots and we have a competition to see who can make the most correct picks. And I wouldn't be surprised. I know that they were nominated for the most. I wouldn't be surprised if they're also by the end of the night the most decorated cast and crew.
Yeah, it's going to be a weird Oscars night because for a competitive side, do you zag just to give yourself a chance? Because it's going to be one of those years where I hope the Academy isn't obviously Oppenheimer's the most deserving, but we don't want it to be boring. Mm-hmm. So we're just going to be we're going to give it to this. You're wait, what? Just to because you don't want it to be cliche or you don't want it to be so on the nose or obvious. Anyway. Keep going. Two more films from you.
Yeah. So the next one, also a Christmas movie. It's called The Nativity, and there are plenty of nativity movies. This one is specifically The Nativity. So not Nativity Story or not Nativity. It's called The Nativity, I believe. And it's a production by the BBC, and I'm pretty sure originally it was made for TV. I think it was released in 4 parts, but you can buy it as a 1-part DVD set. So we used to own it on DVD. We don't anymore, which is a shame because we have. This movie's so special to our family, specifically me and Rebecca, that we watch it every Christmas Eve. After the kids are asleep and after you've done the whole thing, you're just kind of waiting and we watch this movie on Christmas Eve.
How long is it?
It's 90 minutes.
Oh, they released that in 4 parts. Oh, to a 22-minute show with commercials.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, got it.
And it's regrettable we don't have a DVD player anymore because the last few years, trying to pirate this thing off the internet has been a real challenge for me.
Wow.
For our American listeners, I'm pretty sure you can rent it off Amazon.com Prime, but we don't have Amazon.com.
No, we don't.
And you're not going to catch me paying for a VPN. So like I was ripping it off some Korean video.
We don't have Amazon. We don't have electricity. We don't have paved roads.
Yeah, I was airplaying some Korean like Vimeo channel onto the TV last year to watch it. But anyways, it's done by the BBC. Tatiana Maslany, she plays Mary. She is in Orphan Black, which is a show I haven't seen, but I know she plays two characters in that show and has won like multiple Emmys for her performance in that show. She's a brilliant actress. The reason this one is so special to us is because, in my estimation, it's the most like honest portrayal of the Christmas story that I've ever seen. It's not like dressed up in, or it's not sanitized in any way either. Like the birth scene is like really raw. Joseph and the way he reacts to Mary coming home and having a belly is like it's uncomfortable. Like he's really real about it, and like that's what we love about this film. I feel like it's such an honest portrayal of likely the emotions of everyone involved in the Christmas story, from Joseph to Mary to everyone else. The wise men are hilarious.
Well, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
The bishop claims that the synoptic gospels are sanitized.
I mean, so
I had to get She-Hulk out here to actually like make a real version of what actually happened.
Yeah, so if you can track it down, it's not that easy to track down. Maybe if you have a DVD player, you can get your hands on it, but The Nativity from the BBC. And my next film is a film called Calvary. It's 2014, and it stars Brendan Gleeson, and he wasn't nominated for an Academy Award for this film, but he was actually the winner of Best Actor for the British Independent Film Awards for this film. And it's the story of a Catholic priest in, I think, like some small Irish town. The movie opens, he's receiving confession. And the guy on the other side of the confessional is telling his lived experience in the Catholic Church, talking about some sexual abuse in the Catholic Church. And he says, he confesses to the priest that he's going to kill the priest, and that he's going to give him 7 days. He says, next Sunday, I'm going to kill you. And he says, you have 7 days to kind of get your affairs in order.
Oh, okay.
And it's confessional so it's awkward, right? So he doesn't know exactly who's on the other side of the confessional. He can't like breach that trust. So they both just like leave. And so the movie just follows this priest over the next 7 days.
But the priest doesn't know who it is, but the confessioner knows who the priest is.
Yeah. And so he knows it's somebody in his community, but he doesn't know who. And,
oh yeah, Catholic murder mystery. Let's go.
And it's like it's really remarkable. Brendan Gleeson is phenomenal in this film, and it strikes a particular chord with me as a clergy member, of course. But like, it's such a great storytelling of, yes, some of the atrocities get committed in the name of the church, but also from the perspective of what seems to be a pretty honest and humble, devoted Catholic priest. And John Michael McDonough,
this is so funny. When you mentioned like a priest in Ireland, I was like, oh, that reminds me a lot of last year's movie with Colin Farrell, The Banshees of Inisherin.
And Brendan Gleeson was in that film.
Of course, I think so.
Nominated for Best Supporting Actor, yes. But John Michael McDonough, he wrote the film and directed it.
Okay.
And he's quoted as saying this. He says, there are probably films in development about priests which involve abuse, but my remit is to do the opposite of what other people do. And I wanted to make a film about a good priest. Yeah. And yeah, just really unique perspective, telling the same story about abuse in the name of the church, but from the perspective of, to the writer and director's own words, from the perspective of a good priest. So great story, in my opinion. The film is beautiful. You and I, both have a soft spot in our heart for gloomy Ireland.
Indeed.
But Brendan Gleeson's performance just kind of sets it over the top for me.
Well, it's too bad that he was a good priest, because sounds like he gets murdered. Tough.
Yeah, I mean,
spoilers.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil that.
He's dead.
Let's move on to the next question.
I haven't seen it.
Back into the professional bag. Hey, Brady,
all right.
You mentioned your team uses Trello to collaborate on social posts. Could you elaborate on how you're using it? I'd be super interested to know.
Yeah, so lots of different project management tools that are out there that I've tested. Asana, Monday,
Basecamp, Notion.
Basecamp, Notion. I like I like Trello for its simplicity. I think since it's been acquired by Atlassian, it's certainly gained some new features. At its core, Trello is this column-based project management tool. So what we do with our content is it's very systematic. So we separate it into stages. And at the very beginning, it's like an idea. And okay, we're going to drag this card over from the idea column into the it's written column. And then from written into filmed, and from filmed to edited, from edited to scheduled, from scheduled to published.
Yeah.
And so we can just drag it over one by one by one, and it corresponds nicely with the way that we approach work. And we really do systemize basically all of our creative stuff into steps that make it conducive to Trello's kind of style of doing things. That's not for everyone, but I have tried all the other project management tools, and often they're just like very complex, and I'm like, I'm kind of lost. And they're like, we could do everything, and I'm like, I really just need to like move something from like column A to column B.
Yeah, and there are ways in some of those tools, like we in some of our projects have started to use Notion that way, but Notion again is like super complex, can do a ton of heavy lifting.
It's a beast.
But we find ourselves using Notion in the way that we use Trello, like we create visual boards for tracking projects from one status to another. So
Counting on ourselves.
yeah. Okay, for Brady, I need to know your favorite MLB stadium, and for Alex, your favorite coffee shop.
So honorable mentions. First, Petco Park in San Diego. I have fond memories of going on a Tuesday, and it was Taco Tuesday, and the tacos were $2, $1, $2, a small amount of dollars. We ate each,
Yeah, how
my
many
buddy
did
and I,
you have?
more than 10 tacos
Yeah,
each.
why wouldn't you?
And earlier that day, we had been on Coronado Island, and we went to like a bougie hotel on the beach, and we got tacos there, and they were like $80, and we each had like 2 tacos.
Right.
So we had like the perfect day of like the grimiest tacos at the ballpark and the most high-end gauche tacos.
And you know what's nice about that is like when you think about ballpark food, it's like hot dogs come to mind, popcorn, Cracker Jacks, nachos with the fake cheese. But tacos is like not the thing that comes to mind. And so it's nice to have like a bit of an out of the box food experience in a familiar place, like the ballpark.
Totally used the word gauche wrong there, and I apologize.
I'm not even sure I know what that word means.
You know, like unsophisticated.
Okay.
So the gauche tacos were
Right.
at the ballpark.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pardon me. I meant to say bougie. Sometimes I get the two confused.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like opposite sides of the same word. Okay. Also, PNC Park in Pittsburgh. Now, many people would have this like number 1, top 3. And I think I had it number 5 on my list. For context, I have been to every MLB park, save for the new Rangers Park that opened a couple of years ago.
Right.
And beautiful, right in downtown Pittsburgh. You can see the bridge,
Oh, yeah, it's
you know, from the
Right
upper
on the
levels.
river, yeah.
So I was there watching the Blue Jays. We're Canadian, go Blue Jays. And I was a young man, and I was perhaps a little bit verbose that evening in support of the Blue Jays, and perhaps in not support to the Pirates.
Okay.
And I remember the Jays were ahead by a lot. You know, I'm just like talking smack to everyone. Anyway, the Jays lost.
Yep.
And this lady who had just been sitting silently next to me, like stands up and says, "This is our city," expletive, and walked away.
Yikes.
So
Pittsburgh is not a city I think I'd be messing around
no,
with.
again, like maybe, you know, I was like 21, just not aware of the world,
Yeah.
just very, very, not great. And then let's go to the bottom 3.
Ooh, bottom of the barrel.
Bottom 3 before I go to my top 3. Bottom 1, so bad they're going to lose it, probably. Oakland Coliseum.
Again, another city you don't want to be messed around in.
No. Memories of my day going to Oakland. We took the BART, which is the subway, out to the stadium, and a local leaned over and said, you know, I was wearing my Jays jersey.
Yeah.
Clearly, again, small boy. He's like, how are you getting home from the game? And I was like,
Shout out to this local for just like taking care of you.
honestly. I was like, oh,
I'm going to take the subway, sir.
and he's like, do not.
Yeah.
I repeat, do not get on this subway after the game to come home. And I was like, yes, sir.
How'd you get home?
Well, I downloaded a ride sharing app for the first time ever.
Okay.
I was like, and I had never had one before. I was like, Lyft, I think, is a thing. And we use that. So I remember going up to the concessions at this ballpark and saying like, what's your specialty food? That's like, you know, famous thing at each ballpark. And the person on the other side of the concessions being like, do not eat this food. So do not ride the subway, do not eat this food, and do not keep your team and
Yeah, I was
franchise.
going to say, you're not going to have another opportunity to go because
No, praise God for that. Second from the bottom, Tropicana Field. This is where the Rays play in Tampa. Just disgusting in a dome, nasty. At least Oakland Coliseum is outside. Yes, they play in a parking lot, a giant parking garage with like a little bit of grass in the middle. Tropicana Field is also a house of horrors for Blue Jays fans, where terrible dreams
we
go
can't win there.
to die. And then, regrettably, third from the bottom is our home and native land, Rogers Center.
Hey, but who knows, right? They renovated the upper levels last year. Right now, they're renovating the lower levels.
We might have a proper stadium.
Yeah.
I'm not hopeful.
Still a dome. Still a concrete dome.
Top three, number 3, Wrigley Field in Chicago. We were there the month of September in the final season before they introduced digital scoreboards. So we were there and it was still all analog. And, you know, I love hot dogs in Chicago. Say no to ketchup. That's of the devil. Mustard only. Great time. Number 2, Oracle Park, formerly AT&T Park, which is in San Francisco. It's so close, right? The worst and the best. They're so close. San Francisco Giants, beautiful, you know, growing up watching Barry Bonds on the TV, just hitting dingers into the bay. Outstanding. And then number 1, again, regrettably, because, you know, my vendetta against the people and city of Boston continues, Fenway Park. Really just nothing like it. We were there, saw the Jays sweep the Boston Red Sox in just aggressive fashion. And so perhaps I have fond memories of that. I also was there with my wife and our newborn daughter. I think she was like 6 months old at the time, 4 months old. It was our first trip with her. And so she was there for all that. So very special memories.
Awesome. Okay, I included... wow, thanks Evernote for bringing me all the way back to
Did
the top.
the same thing to me.
Weird. I included some honorable mentions as well for my favorite coffee shop. So...
Oh, I know one of those.
Yes, you do. You actually know 3 of them. You know all of them.
Oh, I know all of them.
So Mythical Coffee, it's in Arizona, specifically Scottsdale. I think they actually have a couple locations now. The location that you and I have been to is in Gilbert.
Yeah, was that the one where we're all like, we have pictures of us working there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so the folks there who run it, Eric and Kat, they're just lovely people, but the shop is gorgeous. What I love about Mythical, the shop, but like the brand as a whole, is they just seem to like push the boundaries with their seasonal drink creation, with their coffee bag labeling, like brand design. It's just everything they do is just, it's so gorgeous and so like meticulously executed. It's the kind of shop, you know, that when you're going to walk in, regardless of who like is working there, you know that you can expect your drink to just be executed really, really well, which for me is the best feeling going into a coffee shop. When I go in to a shop unaware of what type of service I'm going to get, that'll actually alter what I'm going to order. And so walking into a shop like Mythical, it's like, oh, I know I could order anything off the menu and it's going to be executed well. So shout out to Mythical. My next honorable mention is a shop that we went to in Spain called Nomad. You remember this?
Was that one where we saw the dogs?
That's the one where we saw the dogs.
I literally got a dog because we went to this coffee shop.
Yeah, so Nomad has a couple locations in Spain. Truthfully, we didn't go to the one that I really wanted to go to. I think the timing just didn't work out. So we went to the one in, what's that area called?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, I forget what it's called. But Nomad is renowned across the world as like one of the best coffee roasters in the world. And so when we were going to Spain, it was like, oh, I would just love to be in that space. And so for me, like, it's a great shop. It's a little shop. It was great. The vibes were great. The coffee was great. But for me, it was like, it was even more just like sentimental. Like, oh, I just really wanted to be in this space because I've been drinking their coffee for so long and heard so much about it. So it was just like a real privilege to be there. I have really fond memories of that. And then the fondest memories of my honorable mentions is the shop in California, in La Jolla specifically, called Bird Rock. And it's just like, I don't know how to describe it with words because it's a feeling. You know what I mean?
I'm getting emotional.
Yeah, it's just, there's this feeling in Bird Rock, California, where it's just this little surf town. It's like the sun is always setting. Like, it's, you know, it's just like...
It never rises.
It's just,
and it never sets.
Yeah.
It's just always on the horizon.
It's just amazing. And at Bird Rock, the one location I'm thinking of, they have these big... The whole storefront is windows, and so you can just sit on the ledge, like with your golden retriever, and like
So many dogs.
drink your coffee, and like grab your surfboard and walk down to the ocean because it's a block away.
Every single car is a Range or a Tesla or a
my
Lexus.
gosh, the vibes are just immaculate to the point where Rebecca and I, when she turned 30, we wanted to do a 30th birthday trip for her. It was our first trip away from our son. And where are we going to go? And this was like, we're going to La Jolla, and we got an Airbnb as close to Bird Rock as we could go. We went there like a couple times a day, spent way too much money on coffee. I don't know why that's not even my favorite coffee shop in the world, because right now as I'm describing it, it's just
Every
it's really
mug
special.
in my house is still a Bird Rock mug.
Yeah.
And you know what? As we talk about it, it's that feeling of like happy it happened, but like you're sad because like I feel like we could go back, but like it was also a time and place thing.
Yeah.
And we went, I feel like we've been like 3 times.
I know the 4 of us went, you and Brittany, me and Rebecca, we went on a little couples trip. We've been there as an office when we went to our retreat in Temecula. We drove down to La Jolla for the day. We drove through there on one of our filming trips once.
Yeah. Weren't we there with like Eric too?
Probably.
Like it's just the number of times we were
to
there.
Herringbone,
Yeah, we just kept going in our like mid-20s. And like, we could go back, but like that's then.
Yeah.
But I want it to be now.
Yes. Okay, my favorite coffee shop. This one's actually close to home, like literally. It's a shop in Hamilton, which is not too far from here, 45 minutes down the road. Hamilton is a pretty big city, like 500,000 people roughly, and like full of great coffee. And there's a shop there called One for All. It's only been open for a couple of years, and they're the guy who runs that shop called Sabin. And the reason this is my favorite coffee shop, and I realized this a couple weeks ago when I went there, is because I walk in and it's a lovely shop, and they have these Asian-inspired desserts as well, so like really unique. It's not like the shop is not special in any sense where it's like it's not anything you haven't seen before in a specialty coffee shop. It's like it's bright, it's white, it's got all the stuff. It's familiar. But when we were sitting there, and then especially when Rebecca and I left, I was thinking, this is my favorite coffee shop because I know when I go in, not only am I going to get coffee crafted with just about the most care of anywhere I've ever been. Like this guy, he owns and operates the shop, him and his wife. He's just like, he's crazy skilled at making coffee and serving it. And not just like even the drinkware that he chooses to serve it in. There's always a little bit of sparkling water to cleanse your palate. Like it's the service is out of this world. But I always go in there and he's so happy to see, not just me, to see anyone who walks through the door. And that feeling of not just getting a great coffee, but like being known a little bit.
Right.
And talking about coffee, sure, but talking about things that are outside the boundary of coffee. Matcha came up when we were there a couple weeks ago, and he just went behind the bar and brewed up a matcha and brought it over, and he wanted to share it with us. And we were talking about, he's Japanese, he was talking about how someone brought this matcha back from Japan for him, and he wanted to share it with me. And it's just like, oh, that's what sets this experience apart from the rest. And so are the vibes as immaculate as Bird Rock? Nothing's. The vibes, there are no vibes that are as immaculate as that.
Heaven, maybe.
Yeah, but it's my favorite coffee shop.
What are your thoughts on the homogenous design styles of cafes and how they're all white and they all just have like minimal stuff, and then it's like a little industrial, tiny bit, like, and then there's like, a mono typewriter style font that they have like,
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's beautiful. Like it's hard to argue with like, this doesn't look good, right? Like,
100%.
It looks good. And I ran a coffee shop that had that kind of vibe. I think the thing about it is like, it's on trend, maybe not as much anymore, but was on trend. It's really easy to pull off and
That's
look
the
great.
thing. Yeah.
Right? So I've been to coffee shops that are like, and Mythical is pretty bright, but like, I've been to coffee shops that are eclectic in a way that it's like, oh, wow, this is unique. This is special. But that's so hard to pull off. Like you have to have a vision for that.
Yeah.
When you can go in and paint everything white, have some black letters and like some sleek looking machines and brew great coffee, that's pretty easy to pull off. And you know that people are going to receive it well. So it's one of those things where
it's familiar, it's cheap, it's
Yeah.
good. I am very fascinated to see what Gen Z does about this. Because
we talked about this on a recent show.
They're going to look at our millennial white coffee shops and be like, this is soulless.
Okay, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Because our houses are decorated in a very similar way, like pretty bright, pretty white.
Yeah.
Are you starting to feel in your own home like,
Starting.
man, we could really use some color?
Starting.
Yeah.
Britt was looking around the house the other day. She's like, this house sucks.
Because I'm starting to feel that way too. The other day I was looking at some art we had on the wall, which is objectively nice. and it's really rich in meaning. But I was like, I need to swap those out for something like really crazy. I need some color up in here.
The thing is, like, you can't do this cheaply.
There's that.
Like, we grew up and IKEA was like in its prime because we grew up with our parents who came out of the 70s. And our parents were like, we ain't doing that. And then we as millennials kind of were like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing here. And now we've come full circle with Gen Z. Is like, we have just been living in like empty white boxes for like a quarter century. And I've said it before, like one of my favorite designers, to bring this into clothing, because it's all the same. This is all the same stuff. One of my favorite designers, Our Legacy, Swedish designer, they released their spring summer stuff today. And it's just all brown. Every single man and woman on the runway is in shades of brown. There wasn't any black, there wasn't any white, it was just brown on brown on brown. And there was a lot of corduroy, brown on brown on brown. And it's like, okay, we have healed from our national trauma of the 70s, and we're ready to be heard again by browns.
That's right.
And the thing is, like, IKEA was like, if all we do is make things white and geometric, we can make it real cheap, right? Speaking of the Swedes again. And the Gen Z is like, okay, but like, this has no soul. It has no personality. It has no uniqueness. Like, you're not making a choice. Every one of you has the same sofa. And we're like, yeah, and it's clean.
Right.
And it's designed well. We grew up not designed well, junk and dirty and like secondhand, even when it was bought new somehow. And they're like, okay, but isn't there something better? That takes so much time and effort. Like, my wife was like, what if we painted this sage green? I was like, you can't just do this in isolation. We have to have a grand vision. We have to become educated. We have to like subscribe to AD,
it's a lot of work,
take a course and learn everything, because you can't just go in and make choices the way we've made choices thus far. Because, oh, wait, a little black. Woo! You can't mess that up.
You know what I did when we painted our house? I emailed the designers who did this office, and her name's Alyssa. Shout out. And she helped us choose paint colors. Our bedroom, sage green. Tell your wife.
But are you over it?
No.
You're still into sage green?
We actually, when we first painted it, it was like more of like a forest green. It was like pretty dark. And just before Aiden was born, I painted it like a much lighter sage green.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we love it.
Well, great.
But it's like that. And then in my office, I have one very dark blue accent wall, which is like borderline like gray.
Yeah.
Everything else is white.
Yeah. I am going to need 5 years.
Yeah.
I'm going to need 5 years.
Yeah.
And then I've had our home for a decade. What we had was great. Let's now just completely dismantle it all.
All right, moving on. On a recent episode, you very briefly brushed over Reddit, and I'm curious to know what your take is when it comes to ministry on using other social media platforms apart from the top 5. So we're talking like Reddit, Snapchat, LinkedIn, or maybe even Twitch. I might be forgetting some smaller ones.
So the question starts with, why would your church be on a social platform? You'd be on there because the features that it offers align with your creative expertise, your church's vision, DNA, culture. And you'd be on there because the people you want to reach are on there. So the reason that we default to all of the major 4 platforms, that being Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, is because they have all the features and all the people. So no matter whom you're trying to reach or what kind of content you're trying to make, oh, we're more of a photo church. Oh, we're more of a video church. We're more of a disappearing stories church. Whatever it might be, like, every one of these platforms has all of those things. And they are used by most people. When you start to go to kind of those like second layer social platforms, there's a pro and there's a con. The pro is, if you find your people there, they are almost certainly going to be more engaged than on other platforms. The con is they're probably not there. So what type of church would be on Reddit? I can't really imagine one.
Snapchat here stands out as one where it's like, yeah, you probably have quite a few young folks on Snapchat. Or like, I know a lot of young folks in our life who their parents will let them have Snapchat, but not let them have TikTok.
Fascinating.
Yeah, because Snapchat is being used as the primary means of communication.
Just messaging,
Yeah, and these kids don't have Facebook. Most of them don't have Instagram. And so a lot of these kids are only on Snapchat or on Snapchat and YouTube if their parents aren't letting them on TikTok. And so that's the one that to me, for next gen stuff, be like, oh yeah, most of your young kids are probably there and maybe not on one of the 4 major players.
Yeah, and presumably there are many churches out there that have parishioners, groups of people in the church that are really active on Twitch. And that could justify the church having some presence on Twitch. But now you're getting into like not a platform that would make sense for the whole church. You're probably talking about like, hey, we have a contingent.
Yeah.
And then we get just to resource allocation. Like, does your church, one, have the expertise, know-how, or passion to be on a platform that is not for your whole church? And then two, do you have the resources to spread out like that? Like, churches are struggling enough to just be on the major platforms, much less like a niche platform. But the promise there is like, if you can, those niche platforms could provide so much more engagement. Like surely there's a church where Discord would make sense. But it's so unlikely in terms of the average church that we're just trying to get people on the major platforms because that's where we all are already.
That's right. And what's nice about those 4 major platforms, we've talked about this at length over the last year or so, is that you can post the exact same piece of content to all 4 of those platforms, right? YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Though, and that leads us, let's skip the next question. We'll get back to it, but go to the question after it because I think what you're saying is interesting because I'm starting to see a little bit of a change there.
Okay.
And I want to talk about
so here we go. Thanks for the podcast last year that hit on some needs for churches like mine. This person belongs to a military church. I wanted to know if perhaps in a future podcast or social media post, hey, how about this one? You might hit on what is a YouTube reel and how is it different from our other social media reels and how do we make them?
So a YouTube reel is actually called a YouTube short. And this person corrected that in their follow-up email. They're like, I called it a reel. It's a YouTube short. What is a YouTube short? It is a vertical video algorithm, just like Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, and TikTok videos. 9:16. It has its own space in the YouTube app. It is highly popular with Gen Alpha. And what's interesting about what you said is like, hey, you can take one video and you can publish it to all these platforms. That is true. And it was very true a year ago and the most true 2 years ago. What I've started to see and observe, and this is fascinating, is seeing how these identical content formats, they're all 9:16 vertical videos. And this is rare in socials history. Rare have we seen every platform embrace the same type of content format. They all have. And yet, we're starting to see the divergence between the platforms and how the users on the platforms treat each one. And why is that? It gets back to what we've been talking about for weeks, the stratification of social platforms. Gen Alpha is the primary users of YouTube Shorts. And that is influencing the 9:16 videos on that platform. Millennials are the primary users on Instagram. And what we're seeing on the 9:16 vertical videos on Instagram is that they're a lot more likely to be polished and nicely put together. And then you have Gen Z as the primary viewers on TikTok's 9:16, and those videos are way more likely to be shot on phones, way more likely to be informal, but like curated to be informal. I always want to give the jab at Gen Z that goes, hey, we're just being authentic. Yeah, but like you're really doing a good job. There's a famous shot in Community at the very beginning where Jeff Winger shows up and his professor calls him and he's like, why did you spend an hour making your hair look like you just rolled out of bed? It's like, yeah, we understand what you're doing here. That's okay. No shame, shame, right? Like we're very curated as millennials, but I just want to say, hey, you're curated too. You're just curated to be informal and, just rolled out of bed surf hair. So those audiences are beginning to influence the videos. And so what I think we'll begin to see in the years and maybe just even months ahead is like the way you record videos and present videos is going to have to be different on each platform, even though they're all 9:16. Like they're identical frames. And yet the cultures of each one are saying, no, we use these frames slightly differently, which is, we always like to relate fashion to social because it's the same thing. Like my grandparents wear jeans. My parents wear jeans. I wear jeans. People that are 15 years younger than me wear jeans. It's all denim on your legs. And yet, this might have a flare. This might be a straight fit. This might be a loose fit. This might be a skinny fit. You can tell someone's age by the denim that they wear. But it's all just denim on pants. Denim on legs. No. Wow.
That's interesting. So I guess like if you were to take, let's say you're doing like highly produced content. Your sermon clip, highly produced. You post that on all 4 platforms. On TikTok, predominantly populated by Gen Z, but like you and I are pretty heavily on TikTok. I guess that the likelihood then is that, sure, these platforms are stratified, but like as you post that highly produced content to that platform, which is mostly Gen Z, but a contingent of millennials, it's more likely to attract the millennial contingency on that platform.
Right.
And so something to keep in mind when you decide what type of content to post to what platform.
Yeah. Your vibe attracts your tribe.
Wow.
A classic. All right, let's go back to the other one now.
Speaking of attracting people to you, specifically your body,
Wow.
looking for some cologne recommendations.
Yikes.
Can I ask you a question? The words cologne and fragrance, interchangeable?
Fragrance is like the catch-all proper, and then cologne is kind of like a specific type that often gets used as like all of the things.
Okay.
So we just say fragrance. That's kind of like the appropriate term.
The frag heads.
Yeah. Hashtag fraghead.
I currently have Creed Aventus, Tom Ford, had
Go for it.
Oud Wood.
Very good.
For the listeners, that's spelled O-U-D. Tom Ford Ombre Leather and Bleu de Chanel.
Great.
Okay, so I don't know much, but I know that like that's a good little cast of characters there.
Yeah, absolutely. So this gal has a good mix of crowd pleasers that are very versatile.
Love it.
So where do we go from here? Well,
Let's
now
dial it up.
that you've got that base, let's get into like some specific things, right? Like you need something for like really cold weather. You need something for like I'm on a yacht. Or
Need something for the Oscars party.
Right,
Which I just
absolutely.
bought a suit for, by the way.
Oh, is it brown?
No, it's black. I actually didn't buy it for the Oscars party. I have 3 weddings to officiate this year, and I don't have a good black suit. Like last year. Do you remember what I wore to the Oscars last year?
I remember what Kyle wore.
It was like... I wish we had a picture to throw up. I wore like a rust orange suit.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And so like I've got the orange suit, I've got the blue suit, I've got a gray suit.
Yeah.
I just don't have a go-to black suit, and I need one for the types of wedding I'm doing this year.
Okay.
So I bought a black suit. I'm gonna end up wearing going to the Oscars party.
Oh, yeah, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong. I'm really worried about brown tailoring and how much I might have to embrace it.
Yeah.
So, okay, my first recommendation for this person is the fragrance that I'm wearing right now. This is Louis Vuitton Ombre Nomad.
Can I give you what it reminds me of?
Sure.
Like incense, but like not in it like I hope that doesn't come off as like condescending, but it's like as soon as I smelled it, it's like, oh, that's reminiscent of a really nice like incense.
It
not
is
Catholic church incense, no offense to the Catholics, but
oh, sure.
You know, like you go somewhere where like a yoga studio where they're like burning choice incense, it's that.
Yes, it is dark. It is animalic, edgy. And he already has Tom Ford Ombre Leather. Let's not get confused by the word ombre being used in both instances. Ombre Leather, which I also have, which is outstanding. I wear that in the fall. It is very smooth, extremely approachable, little like bad boy energy, like leather jacket, but like extremely accessible. Like this is like the bad boy who I am confident I can reach his sweet side because I know he has it. LV Ombre Nomad is
you
like...
have a black tee on, a mustache, and tatted arms.
I had to bring the same energy to go with Ombre Nomad. So this is cold weather. This is like you're in your villain era. Outstanding. Every time I wear this, wifey, she's like... And you have a mustache, she says?
Oh, yikes.
Hello. For all the viewers that are like watching, this was her idea, not mine. Okay, next up, Valentino Uomo Intense. And I've got a wide range of price points on this list. So no matter what you're looking for, this person has, they got Aventus. They've dropped some money before, but Bleu de Chanel, like that's $100. Like, you know, we also have the accessible stuff. Valentino Uomo Intense is accessible. This is, I'm going to the Oscars party. It's classy. It is versatile, so I added it to this list because it'll mix nicely with what this person already has. But this is nothing like what they have. Valentino Uomo Intense, the primary note is iris. And iris is used in a lot of fragrances. It's extremely clean and formal, classy. I love it. It would work great for a ton of things.
This next one
might be my favorite.
Yeah.
Creed Green Irish Tweed. You've heard me talk about it. I'm going to keep talking about it. Why? Because I get to wear it in a couple of months. Praise God. This is an Irish Springfield, one of my all-time favorites. If you like Aventus, this is an all-timer. It's like from the 70s, and it's still just as good. A little soapy. Ooh. Oh, hello. All right. A couple summer options. Actually, 3. These are all bangers. First up, Louis Vuitton Imagination. Citrus on the top, but it's not too sharp. Okay, citrus can sometimes be like, ooh, that's a lot. It's got this foundation, this strong woody backbone to it, so it's not vapid. You know, you can get like a citrus feeling where it's just like it's here today, it's gone immediately, right? No. This is unique, and it is what most freshies are unable to do. It is long lasting. That's the problem with these fresh ones. You spray it on, you smell amazing. There's a couple Creed like this. Creed's Millésime Imperial. Oh, first time I smelled that, I was like, this is liquid gold. And then I'd wear it and it would be gone. And I'd be sniffing myself like, what? Really? That's it? That's the worst feeling. Second up, Louis Vuitton Pacific Chill. This is the newest one that I picked up. And really nothing like this that I've smelled before. It's minty, almost kiwi-esque, slightly aquatic, so a little salty. Unreal. Perfect. And then if you're looking for a more affordable option, this is in my summer rotation. I wore it for the first time on our winter retreat last year. This is Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Forever. Now listen, there are a lot of light blues. Don't go into Sephora and be like, oh, Brady said light blue. Oh, there it is. No. Light Blue Forever.
Okay.
That's the flanker that you want, okay? This is grapefruit and musk. Hyper realistic grapefruit note, but then a nice musk underneath, not too synthetic. And get that cashmerean synthetic, not for me. This is the real deal, and it's available everywhere. Walk into any department store, it's there. It's $75, whatever.
Amazing.
Get it.
Okay, I've got one question
Yeah.
and one commission.
Oh, thank God.
First question: what fragrance are you bringing to Punta Cana?
So I might bring Louis Vuitton Pacific Chill.
Okay,
Because that's
because we're
kind of
stepping out of winter and stepping into southern sunshine paradise.
But my other thought is to bring Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Forever again, because that's what I brought last time. Because I'm going to bring Pacific Chill to the Maldives, and then it's going to become the Maldives fragrance.
Right.
So then, do I then bring that to another? Like, we've already done, so I kind of want to go back,
Yeah.
play the hits.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, one commission. I'm ready.
No, you're not.
I am. I'm ready to commission you, because you know how I feel about like synthetic fragrances. So those are off the table for me. But I'm ready to commission you to find an all natural, versatile fragrance. I'm not getting into I love you and you know I love seasonality of things. I'm not getting into 4 seasons of fragrances. I can't do it.
Okay, what you're saying is you're not doing that to start.
Okay.
Nor would I recommend it.
I've got enough seasonal things going on.
All you do is seasonal. Why
know.
would you then compartmentalize and not make this part of your...
Let's start with one.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. I'm commissioning you to track down
Okay.
a versatile, all natural fragrance that I may or may not consider incorporating into my repertoire.
Okay.
All right.
Understood. I am on the case, Captain.
All right. Final 2 questions. What are your top 5 fast food restaurants?
Okay. We have revealed on our top 5, 3 of our top 5 choices. 5. We don't know number 1 or number 2. So you start
In the
with
5
your
spot?
number 5.
So in the 5 spot, I put Chipotle.
And we're not going to talk about it anymore because it is higher on my list than it is his.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about
Fine.
it when we get to
Yeah.
its position
Fine.
on my list.
Yeah. 5 for you.
My number 5 is McDonald's.
I mean, it's hard to argue. You could put that in any spot and it'd really be hard to argue with.
Okay, this was a really hard answer, like way to ranking for me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, there's like what I like, and then there's also like what I'm gonna choose, and there's also what's available.
Totally.
I don't know how you like decide which of those
Yeah.
factors is gonna matter more than another. Here's the thing about McDonald's. If you hand me a junior chicken fresh out of the bag,
Put it in the one spot.
that's about as good as it gets.
Yes.
If you give me a triple thick strawberry milkshake, I'm a happy person. And, of course, belongs on the list, if only for this. If you take those fries out of the fryer and you put them in that just cherry red with a golden arches little box.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better than a fresh McDonald's fry.
No.
And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can land. You're like, I do not know what, this is a new world for me. And there are the golden arches being like, we're here for you. And we will know.
What's your sandwich order there? Is it a junior chicken?
I think so.
Yeah.
I
Do you
really
like a Big Mac?
No.
No.
I know, I don't like a Big Mac. I don't at all.
I used to get a junior chicken and a McDouble like a Mac.
So I would get that, but just not like a Mac.
Right.
But yeah, you get those two.
Yeah.
and then you get the fry.
Exactly.
And then you get the drink. And then you get 3 more.
How do you feel about a McRib? You ever had one?
No.
Yeah.
Have you had one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what you would expect about from ribs from McDonald's.
I'm really worried about one of yours that's going to be in the top 2.
Yeah.
That is
you
not
should be worried about both of them.
in mine at all.
Yeah.
And I left it off because it's a travesty.
Yeah. So
You're number 4.
well, I mean, and you said it already. This is a really hard list to compile because it's like I don't eat McDonald's. I haven't had McDonald's in probably 15 years.
Famously.
Right? And so it's like
Famously, he wouldn't let me pay him $100 to eat 1 fry.
yeah, and so like
This is the principled man, okay? Pastor principle.
or even Wendy's, like a Baconator is a great sandwich, or like a hot, again, fresh out of the fryer Wendy's fries with dipping them in a frosty, chocolate frosty. It's like
That's classic.
so for my list, these are 5 restaurants that I would and have recently ate at, and so I put A&W in the 4 spot.
Almost made my list a couple of times.
A&W is like they're the fast food spot. It's thoroughly fast food, right? Like, and they're not going to argue about that, but they put on the front where it's like no hormones, no antibiotics, and I think I believe them.
Did they do that in the States?
I don't know. I'm not
Canada-
sure I've ever actually had A&W in the States.
In Canada, to be clear, A&W, I think, it's a different company.
Okay.
And it's like almost like it's the responsible consumer's fast food option.
That's how it feels. And so like
like they serve grass-fed beef in their patties.
Exactly.
That's not happening in the States.
no, and it's the only fast food Asher's ever had. Like he gets a chicken fingers and fries. I really like the sweet potato fries from there.
Oh, they're great.
They have a Nashville hot chicken sandwich now, which I haven't had, but I took my nephew there. He had it. He said it was great. It looked good. I mean, root beer, A&W root beer.
A frosty mug?
Yeah.
A frosty mug?
Yeah, so A&W's got a spot in my heart to the point where that's what we're getting for dinner tonight. Mostly because we drive by one every morning when I drive Asher to daycare. He's 3 and he goes, "Oh, Dad, I see A&W's." And then he says, "I want to go there again soon." And so today I just said, you know what?
Let's go.
We'll go there. Yeah.
We were watching a YouTube Kids video yesterday, and it was like guess the logo, and I was just like admiring capitalism's reach into my 8-year-old and how she knew virtually every single logo. I'm like,
Wow.
I don't know how you know all these logos. Like
A&W's in the last 5 or 10 years have really popped up everywhere in a way where they
And good for them.
They hadn't before.
You know,
Yeah.
they're in their bag, and I salute their bag.
Yeah.
I didn't put them on my list because I find myself not choosing them because they're so close to a dirty option. I'm like, I'm gonna
Might
go
as well.
dirty.
Yeah.
And in light of that, my
Yeah.
number 4, Taco Bell.
Which I could have, without looking at your list, I could have assumed would have been in the 1 spot. I know it just has such a
It's got a hold on me. It's got a hold on me. So sometimes I'll get in like a bad eating phase, and every time I get
Not
in a
this
bad
year.
eating phase, the launch this week was challenging.
Okay. You used, how many of your red days did you use? More than 1? Okay. That's all right. That's okay.
The launch, man. Oh, I'm so upset.
It's okay.
Dang it. But I didn't even go to Taco Bell.
They came to you?
Well, just my red is just so like aggressively defined. Like I had Odd Bar pizza last night, and I was like, well, this is red.
Oh, it's so good.
Isn't that sad?
So good.
When Uber Eats was like, oh, you want Odd Bar? It's not open on Monday. Want to try Little Caesars instead? I was like, what are we doing here? Okay, Taco Bell. There is only one way to eat Taco Bell. That's important, okay? You get it in the drive-thru because you can't go into a Taco Bell. It's too embarrassing. You get it in the drive-thru wearing a balaclava.
Yeah.
You then go from the drive-thru to the closest parking spot in the Taco Bell parking lot.
So
And
as soon as you can stop your car.
You turn on a podcast and you eat it because it will self-destruct in 90 seconds.
What's your order?
Okay. So I get a cheesy gordita crunch. Do you know what that is?
So I've been to Taco Bell exactly 1 time in my life. And
I hate you
it was in
sometimes.
high school. And I had, is it called a volcano crunch wrap?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
I had that.
So a cheesy gordita
So
crunch.
I understand what the crunch, I feel like I understand the crunch part.
No, you don't, actually. Not at all. This is embarrassing for you. Don't embarrass yourself. Please stop. So this was a novel invention as monumental as the invention of the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
Like similarly
Okay.
important to
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah.
In around high school for us, where they're like, we have a taco, a hard taco. You know?
Yes.
Now they call it a crispy taco. Do you want,
Who's doing that?
They used to say, do you want hard or soft
Yeah.
shell? Do you want soft or crispy? What do we used to be a private country.
Yeah.
And they're like, so we have hard tacos. We also have soft tacos. Put your hands together. It starts with a hard taco. Then they take the soft, layer it with cheese. Then they wrap the cheese around, and then they cook it so that there's a cheesy good. It's crispy.
Yeah.
It's chewy. It's cheesy. It's unlike anything else you can eat.
That sounds great.
It was my favorite food in the planet Earth for many years. So I get that. Then I get my fries supreme. Again, edible for 90 seconds. Okay, they take the fries, and then they put on the cheese sauce. Then they put on the sour cream. And then they take a little bit of diced tomatoes and bunch. Oh, wait, we've got
veggies?
one more gun. No more veggies. They used to put like the green onion. They don't do that anymore. But one more gun, the meat gun.
Oh, sick.
And then you just chow in.
Yeah.
You're chowing.
Yeah.
Then you get a Diet Pepsi because they're a Pepsi
Okay.
product company.
Yeah.
And then you get 2 hard taco supremes on the side. That's the order. It's a cool 1,500 calories. It's not even that bad. I ate a pizza last night. That was like 3,500.
Right.
Like 1,500 calories for that much.
Yeah.
You're getting 1,500 from
And
just
it
like
was like $3.99.
well, no,
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my number 4. And turn on a podcast, eat it in shame. You then must dispose of all the garbage in the garbage at the Taco Bell.
Right.
Open the windows, drive home.
Yeah.
You have to get the air out. The
Yes.
stale Taco Bell air. No.
Okay, moving on to number 3. It should be said that, and I'm sure for anyone who's listened to this show for any length of time knows that like I just grew up in a house where a lot of the most common fast food chains would just be like a no-go for me. So like I've never had KFC.
Ever.
In my life.
You know that Taco Bell, the one that I go to, is also a KFC.
I'm sure it is.
Sometimes I won't get the 2 tacos and I'll get a twister instead.
What's a twister?
It's a KFC wrap, but the KFC chicken is on the inside. And they have a tangy ranch. It's tangy.
Yeah. So I've never had KFC.
That's tough.
And so for number 3, again, the question, it's like, I guess you just answer it as you will. So I put a local South Carolina chain on here. And by chain, I mean they have 2 locations.
Oh!
No, but it's okay. It's called Zesto's. It's fried chicken.
You're disqualified.
And they do fried chicken. It's like KFC. They do fried chicken and like dipped cones.
Oh, God.
And I went to...
You bother me.
I went to
You really bother me.
I went to this one Zesto's location, this little one with actually Rebecca didn't come. I just went with her sisters. So my 2 sisters-in-law. And the feeling, okay, the fried chicken's great. The dipped cone, it's everything you expect from a dip cone.
Okay.
But the vibes, it's like this little, it's like whatever you would imagine of a no-name corner in the southern United States, this like independent fried chicken little shop. It felt like home.
This is not the spirit of the exercise. Okay?
It's fast food.
No!
It is.
This is not the spirit of the exercise.
You would love
and
it.
we boo you.
Okay.
You know what a real fast food joint is? Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
Okay?
Do you ever get food from there? Because I've only ever had ice cream.
This is what I'm about to tell you. And I'm about to prophetically reveal this to you.
Okay.
There is not a more slept on fast food joint, and I've said this for years, ask anyone outside of these doors, than Dairy Queen. Dairy Queen has a flamethrower sauce.
I've heard about this.
Unmatched.
It's hot.
So, yeah, decently. I mean, yeah. For a fast food joint. Brittany and I will get a Blizz. Matching Blizzies is what we call them.
What Blizzard?
I mean, usually a Reese's type. They have like a Reese's like pie one is like graham crackers and Reese's.
Okay, wow.
Maybe a regular Reese's Cups one. I'm also a big fan of the formerly named strawberry cheese quake, which they have downgraded to the strawberry cheese cake. Oh, I didn't realize that we hated personality and fun at Dairy Queen.
I used to just get the cookie dough one.
I'm shocked that you chose the most basic Blizzard
Sorry.
on the menu.
Yeah. Again, I've only had that a handful of times in my life.
You don't have to keep saying that at every single fast food restaurant.
My top 2 I've had quite a bit of.
Okay, okay. I mean, I knew it was going to be top 2 and not 2.
Okay, so 2 Blizzies.
Oh yeah, 2 Blizzies.
Yeah.
And then you get a crispy flamethrower wrap, but you get 2. They also have flamethrower burgers. Very good. And their fries passable. Also, a Pepsi product company. I'd prefer Coke, but I'm not going to be too upset.
What's your favorite fast food fry?
You know what fries are my favorite food on earth. So this would
All
take
fries,
an entire podcast, and I would have to think on it. So I cannot answer that at this time.
Fine. In my number 2 spot, the reason I go to this place is because of the fries.
Oh, number 2, and it is 2.
Number 2 is Chick-fil-A.
I thought it was going to be 1.
Yeah, so
Go
I know.
ahead. I keep cutting you off.
It's like, no, it's just like, it feels so basic.
Guys, Chick-fil-A sucks.
When I was making this list, I was so disappointed in myself, Braid. And I didn't get introduced to Chick-fil-A until I started dating my wife. So it's been 10 years, my history with Chick-fil-A. And when I first started, it was novel. It was like, I'm trying everything. I'm just so excited. And then I grew up and realized the sandwich kind of sucks.
Thank you.
Right? Like the chicken's not crispy.
No Christian is able to admit this. You can't just put John 3:16 on a chicken bag and then get a pass. We have to evaluate you objectively.
Like soggy bun, 2 pickles? Like what are we?
That's not charm.
So I've matured to the point where I no longer get the spicy chicken deluxe combo. I go there and I do get chicken nuggets because I do like the chicken. I mostly like the Chick-fil-A sauce. So they're vehicles for sauce to get into my body. So I get the chicken nuggets. I skip the sandwich because I don't need the old tomato, the soggy bun, the 2 pickles. I would like the pickles, but you're only giving me 2, so I don't need it.
It's oppression.
I get some nugs, but I'm there for a large waffle fry. And Rebecca has taught me, she used to work at Chick-fil-A. And like most fast food places, but maybe more so than most, the disparity between a fresh waffle fry from Chick-fil-A and a not fresh one, it's borderline offensive to the point where I have started asking for fresh out of the fryer, and if they're not fresh, I'll wait.
Yeah.
And so I'm there for the fries, and I love those waffle fries so dang much with the Chick-fil-A sauce. I had to put it in there. And you know what? When we were in South Carolina in the summer, they had it was called frozen lemonade. It was their vanilla soft serve, which is great, blended with lemonade.
Oh.
And you like drink it like a milkshake.
Oh.
It was so good.
Okay, I am intrigued by
so
that.
that was great. Again, that's something I'll try once. I'm not gonna double down on again, even though it was great.
They're everywhere now.
But yeah, I mean they're here.
Yeah, they're here.
Yeah.
So So I went to, what was I doing? What was that? Why was I at that thing? What was it? A wedding? I don't know what I was at. No, Thanksgiving. So I'm at my sister's house in Barrie. They have a Chick-fil-A there.
Huh.
Right. And
Like by the Cabela's?
no, in the mall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Bayfield Mall. Huh. And so she lives down the street from there. And we're at Thanksgiving, and it's a Saturday. And I'm like, great. Oh, we're going to wake up and we're going to go to Chick-fil-A tomorrow as we drive north. Mm-hmm. No, we're not. Because it's closed on Sundays.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is,
I know.
I don't.
It's Canada. It's God's country. It's not God's
This
country.
is not, we are a secular nation, okay?
No Bible Belt here.
You want
Let's
to
just
come to
open
our
it up.
country, okay? You obey by our non-Christian pluralistic rules.
Open it up. Yeah.
No, I had to go for a late night Saturday run in the rain. You'd think it'd be fresh. I get back to the hotel. I'm like, this is trash.
I know.
Just trash. So I think that must mean that your 1 is my 2 and your 5 is my 1.
Probably.
So we can talk now about the place that has the worst fries ever, and yet somehow they're the best fries ever.
Okay, so I'm glad we're on the same page here.
In-N-Out.
Yeah.
My
It's
number 2,
1.
your number 1.
Yeah.
Higher on your list? Tell me about it.
Well, it's just like, I love a good all-American burger. Mm-hmm. And In-N-Out gives you that.
That's
the
real.
fries are weird as heck, but somehow I'm really into them.
They're so bad that I want them the most.
Exactly. There's a secret menu. You know, there's animal fries. There's the animal style burger with the fried onions and the sauce. It's like
The shakes?
the shakes.
Oh.
and
the shakes.
for us flying west, it's a bit of a grind.
Yeah.
It's 5 hours in the air.
Wow.
You land,
What do you do?
and you just know it's like, oh, talk about God's country.
I'm being greeted
I'm here,
on the ground.
and I just want an all American hamburger. And I want some fries that are weird, but somehow like the texture, I don't know.
I don't know what is
wrong with
happening.
those
I don't know what they're
fries.
doing. Chick-fil-A wants to be everything In-N-Out actually is.
Yeah.
White and red, kind people, famous branding, loves the Lord,
Yep.
but one is actually doing it and the other is an imposter.
And there's also, speaking of, I mean, similar to A&W, there's something about In-N-Out not opening locations that are outside of a certain like geographical location where they can get their produce fresh.
Right. Yeah.
Something about that?
Yeah, they claim, oh, the beef, we don't want to freeze it.
Yeah.
It has the distribution.
Cool.
And so
Love
like,
it. Feeling healthy.
yeah. Now, I will admit that my top two are probably being impacted by their scarcity,
Yeah.
right? So my number one is Chipotle. It's not even close. Chipotle is the only place that I can go to predictably, hit the macros, leave feeling great.
That's the P word, predictable, is why Chipotle found itself on my list, because truthfully, like it's not the top 10. In the top 10 of places that comes up, it's like, oh, I want to eat there. But I know every time I go to Chipotle, I know exactly what I'm getting. I know it's going to taste the same. And I know I'm not going to feel like a bag of dirt when I leave.
I love Chipotle so much that the meal that I eat at home most predictably for dinner is a mock Chipotle bowl because we don't have it here yet. We have it in Toronto, but like I can't open a delivery app and get it.
Yeah.
And every year around this time, I Google and I say, Chipotle, where are you expanding to this year? And every year their PR, bunch of bums, we're expanding all over Canada. I'm like, okay, well, I live where all the Canadians live. We all live in one place. So, number one, love it. If you were curious about my order, it's a rice bowl with chicken, double, of course, sauteed veggies, no cheese, no sour cream, no guac. We're going mild salsa, we're going medium salsa, and we're going corn salsa, and we're locked in.
I will never forget the first time I traveled with you to Atlanta. And you were in such a space with your body and your eating. 3 meals a day, Chipotle.
In
Chipotle.
my bag.
Yes. Hey, Braid, where are you? I'm at Chipotle. Oh, okay.
I've been here, and I will be here.
Yeah.
And we'll be here next week.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you then. Cheers.
Bro Church pools. We need sun hats.
Sun hats.
Yeah. We need pina coladas. And I need to grow out a mustache as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.